Welcome back to the International Esports Federation Asian Championship at Gamers 8 in Riyadh. Obviously, last game of the day. We are in the middle of a pause, but that pause is now going to be running out. Iran versus India. We're going to be getting back into the game 6-2. India has surprisingly taken a lead versus an Iran that everyone was convinced was on the route to knocking out Saudi Arabia potentially. Obviously, if Iran wins here, then they would be going even with Saudi Arabia. If they lose, well, then that's where things become a lot more simple. We don't have to go through any tiebreaker shenanigans. We don't have any considerations like that at all. And right now, it's not looking great for them. Down 2-6. They did get the initial pistol rounds as well, so it's not like those 2 rounds were gun rounds or anything like it coming through. This is not the most promising start for them. And as far as India is concerned, rather down 2-5, we'll just quickly correct that. As far as India is concerned, Spawn is looking fantastic right now for us. He is just having an unreal performance so far in terms of just his ability to hold down anchors and sights is just so incredibly impressive. And this is where we have to actually start to see whether he can continue that forward, because as impressive as he's been, the only question is, can he keep doing it?
Yeah, that question definitely remains to be answered, and that question will have an answer soon enough. With the game going live now, India, of course, still leading very, very heavily, fired up, getting the initial frag as well. This new resurgence is great.
Yeah. Only wish it would have come sooner. Aske Wow takes down Dantek, will be traded out very soon afterwards. Rashnus, obviously a player who had a lot of impact earlier on in Mirage. Or Miragi, as I like to call it. It's just me, honestly. No
Third variation, my rage.
That's terrible. That's even worse. How'd you make Miragi worse?
Yeah, well, Fired Up is playing a very, very aggressive angle. He might have somebody walk into his crosshairs, getting ready for the util. He spots the corner of an elbow, but Amin is a little too far for him, too fast for him, rather.
It's a flashbang that actually ends up faking out enough. Fired Up was trying to pre-fire in for the flash pop through, but Amin waits just long enough for the shot to come through, and then it's easy breezy. Only Clouder left. Iran, despite losing out the early advantage, will be recovering.
Yeah, not really anything that Clouder can do here. I think he might want to still poke around. Because, you know, we talked about how this is a bit of a flex game for India. And, of course, he wants to take advantage of Fid walking straight into
it was a flex game for Mongolia, right? For India, it's a face game. Try to save some face.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. But I just mean in terms of the individuals. You know, everybody wants to flex just so that they can, you know, you talked about all the different little personal incentives that people tend to have. And I think that's definitely a part of it.
It's no small incentive to be able to go back home and tell your teammates, you are the reason why I lost.
Yeah, I think being able to blame is better than any prize money.
I don't quite agree with that, but yeah, Fired Up in prime position to blame so far. Has been having some great impact on the AWP now. Secondary op has also been picked up by SK WoW. We did have a brief conversation, what seems like an aeon ago, about the fact that both of these players do sometimes like to on.
And of course, having that double AWP setup, when you don't really have shining AWP players like Nine and Yami on your squad, it can be make or break. Now, that's not to take away any credit from the Indian Operas, but unfortunately, they haven't quite shown us something to write home about. Nick is nice. Is able to peek out into connector and at least get that refrag, but well, still a little bit sloppy, to be honest.
I have no idea how Amin messes up that Molotov that badly and then still finds a frag before he dies.
Their own. The situation's been brought back to just 2 members. Nick Hayes waiting for the smoke to dissipate now, expecting both of them to pincer at the same time, but this is a disjointed push from the T's, and MN narrowly missed out the timing, being able to catch a player in the back. Now, wanting to traverse through the back of the temple as well. Zerone reuniting himself with the bomb very soon. Nick Ace knows that Zerone is around the corner because the audio cue has been given up, but itching for a fight, and that itch will simply not be scratched.
He does get the fight. Just doesn't win.
Just not the win.
Yeah, it's like trying to itch and then you accidentally end up pulling out some skinny. It is painful. Zeron, though, some pain for him as well. SK Wow's second re-op might finally be time for it to shine. That's a very late. That's so late on the drop down. That's just that is unfortunate. Honestly, I would like to blame, like, oh, hey, maybe he's not used to LAN, but that only works if he fires too early.
Yeah. That's the, it hurt itself in its confusion.
Money's now gone. Double up and loss will do that to you. So Iran is teed up for a 5-5 potentially. Oh, there goes Amin. Very strong start as well because there's no one nearby to refrag. Rashnus was the player that perhaps you could rely on, but he was much more concerned about potentially a push to come in through canals that the rest of his team can't account for. So now with the frag, fired up fades away. It's just the frag, not the rifle.
At least they've gotten a bit of damage in. Fired up, of course. Now, India have already made a pretty strong case for themselves over on the CT side, because obviously there's not as much pressure on Anubis to do well on the CT side.
Yeah.
Still not something that is something to celebrate about. But if they can get to that 6 to 7 round mark, I think they'll be pretty comfortable. But getting to that point, of course, Iran will want to make it as hard as possible. Getting ready for the duels here on A now, getting ready to burst in.
Watch out for the flank.
Yeah, Molotov ready for the pillar as well. The flank is going to be everything. It is taken care of, though. Nickers will fall. Zerone able to find a head in the form of SK's. Rashnus was nearly caught out with a smoke in his hand, but surely there's not going to be losing duels, are they, though? The Deagle goes for the double, but that is all she wrote. 5-5, Iran. That is still a bit of a messy round, all things considered.
Fired up is 14-7?
Yeah.
He's really sneakily climbed up. I mean, you know, these past 3 kills, not as impactful, but great for just dealing damage to the T-side economy at the very least. So if India start to find a winning waves of gain over here, they would have a lot of easier rounds as a result of those 3 frags. But yeah, that's kind of wild that Fired Up is doing so well right now. Iran is still looking to commit into the B-bomb site where the AWP Fired Up lies in wait, but the amount of utility that he has is just non-existent. It's a single flashbang, and that'll be pretty much all she wrote. When the full execute comes through, there is not going to be assistance nearby. Most of the Indian side is accumulated back towards A. It's just SK Wow coming in from behind Fired Up. He doesn't really have any utility either, so no flashes or anything like it could be used. Fired Up, collateral comes through, looking for the flick on the turn, will be unable to do so, and Spawn's rotation now comes into effect. He'd run through the canals, and now Fired Up will finally fall, but in doing so, he has done it all. Spawn, only the 8 HP, now taken apart. Zeron will fall.
Okay, so already a great half for Team India. They've done the work that they needed to on the CT side. They've gotten the bare minimum. They've gotten a little bit of a bonus on the top of that. At least they've put themselves in a position where they're finally contending for a game, and they're thinking, okay, maybe we don't have to go out of this tournament with 4 losses.
AKA the Australia, Palestine, and Pakistan philosophy. Palestine did actually end up going through. Just a heads up to the viewers, after 3 different kinds of tiebreakers, I don't even know all of them. Palestine is the team to make it forward into the lower bracket.
Yeah, it's crazy that even winning just 1 game, as long as all the other conditions line up, you can still end up making it through because of the sheer number of teams that are going through.
Yeah.
6 out of 10.
Oh, Fired Up is gone. Dantic just takes him down. Tech 9 at close range, and now the AWP recovered as well. Remember, he does play secondary. Rashnus prevents him from finding more.
Yeah, obviously they don't really have enough money to do much here. Zerone, though, makes it even worse. Salt to the wounds, pepper to the wounds as well.
Yeah, Nikis is definitely in YOLO mode, considering how many times we've now seen him just throw a gun away towards the end of the round for literally nothing. There is nothing.
I mean, I can kind of understand the tilt factor because he also only has 4 kills. Like, he is the one player that is potentially going for the most number of engagements in these situations, and he's not coming out on top. But obviously, the deaths don't fully reflect that.
Also, in all fairness, I feel like Nikis also is the player with the most to gain. Right, from a good individual performance over here, because he is the only player without an AUG in this team. Obviously, we know about the 3 Revenant players, Cloud Eyes on God's Reign. Nikis is the only one without a team right now. So, a good showing internationally, that's the kind of thing that gets you on one very quickly back home. Perhaps something that he hasn't really completely taken into consideration, though. Or even if he has, just not being able to do too much about it. International showings can be very rough. And right now, the Shadow spotted out initially. Rashnus baits out shots, fired up, and his pre-fire will give him nothing.
Shouldn't be a difficult round for Iran to pick up now, getting ready to pop into the A-bomb site.
I mean, you say that, and there are 5-7s close by. Spawn will be forced out by the Molotov. The P250 cannot connect, even if it's given a few shots in.
I mean, I respect that. Even against pistols, they're actually taking their sweet time. They're going for Molotovs. They're slowly clearing every single angle out. Now, there is a player tucked into the pillar that I think could have been spotted on a 16x9 setup, but doesn't really matter all that much because by the time he can be relevant, his teammates have already been mowed down. Iran on 7 now, and I think this might be the first time they've had the advantage.
No, they won the pistol.
Oh, right, they won the pistol, and beyond that, I think after the gun rounds, they haven't.
Yeah. After they stopped having the advantage, they haven't had the advantage.
Yes. Can you tell that it is getting late?
Fired up. Will pull out the AWP. I don't blame it at all. Make it or not, he is impressive. Holding down a similar angle over towards the B-bomb site, though, does take away some of the dynamism that you do associate with the AWP. Obviously, with the lack of the armor, his options are significantly more limited. Boost up for Zeron. I don't think he should be able to see SK out over here unless SK... Oh!
Oh?
SK tries to get a little bit too cute. Zeron, though, moves forward, gets the hops out. Somebody check his shoes. I need a pair.
He's wearing the band, what were the Vaporfly something?
Putting in Olympics references here. It is a national tournament in all fairness, so you know what? Maybe you're not too far off about that. The remaining Indian players will just be looking to save. One more gun round will be allowed to them as long as Iran does not actually triumph in their hunts. I'm surprised Iran is not hunting more aggressively. They've got money for days, and, well, days are pretty limited right now. It's just Dantic who's actually moving forward. Spawn is just trying to evade. Now Sankyu's given up by Spawn. Can't say the same for Dantic, and as Spawn tries to turn around, initially will be able to find the one, but Rashnus can trade. So even that one kill is more than worth it for Iran. Actually, it could be 4 DKs. This guy just has no luck at saving. That's big. That's the difference between a gun round and not. And as much as you were mentioning about how the favorable side for Anubis might be the T side, I don't know if I completely agree with that given the players that we have on the server. You know, Iran, they're having a fantastic showing from Zeron, don't get me wrong, but you do look over towards players like Dantic and the great anchor performances he was having. You didn't see the same on the T side from Iran, generally speaking. Is perhaps better off in a contained area sometimes.
I mean, obviously it's difficult to draw parallels between the T sides of different maps, but I
Yeah.
totally get where you're coming from, especially with someone like Zerone. The fact that he was taking so much space as an AWP player, that also really enables them when they go on to a more proactive requirement CT side. I don't even know what the word salad was, but yeah, a side that requires you to be more proactive as an AWP player, right? I think Zerone is going to shine in that role once he does step into the CT side shoes.
Oh, fired up as that is shot baited
No,
out
second
just
one
by
too?
the slow peek forwards. Misses all over the place. And it's not a wife. It is the wrong kind. India losing up player after player, and it looks like they will be contained in onto 6. Iran setting up for the 9. Clouders putting up something forward for show, but he's already eliminated, and Nikes is so far off, a 1-on-3. One of many that he has been in, but the first race got no choice but to bulldoze forward.
I think if he had gotten that duel a little bit earlier, perhaps he could still have contended for the 1v2, but Iran, pretty convincing showing on the T side after India accumulated the first 4 to 5 rounds. Unfortunately, that is enough of a buffer for India to actually have a solid performance when they do head on over to that blue uniform.
Amin's got that trusty smoking kit out after the Mirage show. I don't blame him for it. India, in the meanwhile, is setting up for a quick B-side hit. Iran's playing full retake over here, so they will be conceding out the bomb plant, if not more. Zeron falling, Rashness as well goes down. The connector is completely occupied by the terrorist side. Amin and Dantic, actually, both of them coming in with a killer piece. Now, there is a kit on the ground. Dantic could potentially look to recover it, but the problem is that by the time he actually gets to the site, they're already taking up post-plant positions, jiggling out for information. Dantic set up for the bait and switch, and fired up can just seal the deal. 7th round there for India. They are still in it.
Of course, the condition for me to see Iran actually struggle would be when Zeron actually has that AWP in his hands, when he's getting proactive, when he's getting down and dirty with the difficult duels. That's when those difficult bargains are going to have to be driven.
I mean, he's the only one with investment over here, so this bargain's pretty simple. I give you a deagle, you give me a
$700.
round loss.
That too. That's the hidden
A
cost.
round loss for as cheap as $700, the price you can only get in Riyadh. Well, actually, to be honest, it's a price you can get it anywhere in Counter-Strike. The stack is at the very least at the right location. So maybe there is a world where you can do a bit more damage. Spawn is low. Dantic has found a kill so far. Going in for a bit more. Will be able to collect. It's MM to bring down SK. Dantic and MM will both fall and fired up. Will be the one to come through and clean up instead. This is desperately hunting out for any more frags that he can find. I mean, however, he's likely going to be a casualty to fire it up instead.
The strongest performances from Team India already, and it's coming through when it's a die or die scenario, and that's a little unfortunate. You know,
Yeah.
if they had it early on, then maybe you could have also seen them in that tiebreaker scenario and all that, but it is a little unfavorable.
That's putting it lightly.
I'm definitely mincing words here.
It's all right. It's obviously everything for Iran, though, and they need to put it together. We need to see more from them in this regards. They are giving up so much in these spots. Rashness.
Good little one way.
It's nice to play off of, but the problem is Spawn is expecting that. He knows exactly what that one way is designed to do. Spawn will just eliminate, and with that, fired up, gets space inside the B cave.
Yeah, and if you're playing that one way, you need an A1S, right? So there's a little bit more time you have, and playing that far of an angle, you need to have that recoil be as tight as possible.
Also need to actually shoot the player.
He did shoot him, just not enough.
True. So I am just checking this right now. I believe, and I might be wrong about this, but I believe that it is now actually impossible for Iran to qualify anymore. Because the round difference might make it so. And even because in the head-to-heads, I think they lost to Saudi Arabia, as well as like a few other conditions. So from what I can tell, I don't actually think Iran can make it either. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, so this could potentially be a lose-lose game where neither team is actually playing for the win.
But don't tell Iran that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they know it or not.
I mean, I talked to a few of the players, and I'm going to have to go back on because Iran is moving in for a retake. Two players quickly put down the meat grinder. SK, wow, he's trying to keep them off the bomb. Well, that is going to be an exercise in futility. But yeah, I was speaking to some of the players, and I think a lot of them were also confused on how exactly this works. So,
Man, that's the problem with round robins.
yeah, that is by design so that players don't give up.
Yes, and it's not just about giving up. It's also just about making sure that some unethical behavior that can come up in
Yeah, like if you've
through.
already basically guaranteed a qualification, right? You don't want that team to just be like, oh yeah, I can kind of decide who qualifies, and I can kind of just like not care.
Yeah, obviously, it's the confusion definitely helps maintaining some sort of integrity at the very least. It is still very confusing.
It's a bug that is touted as a feature.
Yes.
Indeed. Also known as the gaslight. Moving on.
India. Tech-9s and armor is all they've got to try and save the day, and the day is not really going to be leaving them with very much. SK taken down. No real lurking presence out towards the A-bomb site either, so Iran actually cheating back. Zeron might be a big mistake. Zeron would rather perhaps focus in on middle, where Clouda is actually getting a lot of space. Nade won't quite go into the corner. Fired up is still safe. Even the Molotov will not spread to him. There might be a false sense of security, but how many players are outside the BK? Spawn is down. Rashness will not be able to follow through with a flick. Clouda and Fired Up are both able to find a kill apiece. And with this, it could have been an opportunity for them to turn around their fortunes. But fate seems to be decided.
Oh, that is Clouda just being the last man alive. Can't really do anything about it. 11-8, Iran, they've also, I mean, they haven't broken down the economy of India just yet, but they're on the cusp of it.
You know, India's money is weird. The previous round as well, they half won in a situation where over here they don't have the best of buys regardless. Spawn will most likely have to settle for a Mac 10 unless one of his teammates wants to drop, and it seems like he would rather sacrifice the utility. He's one of the two players who's been having a performance on India. Between him and Fired Up, the only ones who've actually crossed double digits and done so in a big way. Actually, that's a lie. I think Clouda might have just broken the 10 in the previous. Iran, meanwhile, has gotten aggressive in through A main, and Nikis has missed the timing. He might not know exactly what is going on over here, so the peek back out over gives Zeron a big advantage, one that he will take any day of the week.
Rashness, this is the one-way smoke he's used before, so this has to be very, very telegraphed, if they were to come there, but regardless, Fired Up, expecting the boost, tries to go for a pre-fire as well, doesn't work out. This is where they start to get ready to push into the B-bomb site. They are up against the full force of the Iranian players as well. There's a couple Molotovs to stop them in their tracks as well. And this has bought so much time for the rotations that this B-bomb site should virtually be impermeable.
Ooh, that's a bad smoke, actually.
But the bomb is already making its way back. I mean, I'm not sure if they want to route through connector and try to go for a two-prong setup. That does seem to be what is on the menu. Clouda catches one in the... Oh, doesn't actually catch him in the back. It's rashness to defend. 3v5 as they now try to scurry onto the B bomb site, and everything they throw at this B site is going to be an act of desperation. SK Wow gets one, Spawn able to get an entry as well, and all that rotation is for naught because SK is going wild, gets that second kill as well, and all of a sudden, what should have been an ironclad defense and what I previously called impermeable has been fully taken control of.
Desperation is just what ends up working out for them. India, that is the story of the game. Fired up. Will have lost a teammate and now his own life as well. I mean, oh, what a man. What a mean.
As much as we love to talk about the narrative of India being able to get stuff done when it's in acts of desperation, as soon as that desperation quiets down a little bit, that voice quiets down, and when they feel like they've got control of the bomb site, that's when the pressure lets loose a little bit. And that is the window of opportunity that Iran will punch through.
Oh, look at these entries from Spawn as well. Between him and SK, they had some fantastic frags, but unfortunately, just not enough. Iran will once again find an India with a weakened economy, which is going to be forced to half by. 0 on 20 frags now in just as many rounds. Would be very impressive if not for the fact that India's got a man with 21. And that man is on the losing side. No, it's not Nikes. Yep, it's this one.
Why haven't we seen this camera angle before? The cinematics.
Saving the best for the playoffs.
Circling the player like they're a car in a showroom.
Well, this is where, I mean, we'll be forced to put up a show once again. Obviously, previous round was a big one, but the flashbang will be quite helpful. Zeron as well is happy to pick up some of the slack, and indeed, does find a single kill. Can't look for more. He's just trying to play around the fishbowl, and will be getting absolutely nothing. Tantic, I want to collect the frags instead.
Yeah, and fired up. I mean, they're kind of still within the territory of the Tech-9, but I didn't want to be too optimistic. 13-8, Iran. Where India kind of looked like they could have gotten something done, unfortunately, even in their fourth match, they aren't able to inch it towards the finish line. Now, I feel a little bad for Fired Up because he's kind of in the same position as what we saw Savage in Team Australia, where he's getting the frags, he's getting a lot of the work done, but that work, unfortunately, isn't being followed by a lot of substance from the rest of the team.
Zeron is getting aggressive in the middle, very much so. Rashta's doing the same back in BK. Zeron's missed a shot though, a rare miss. Almost never have to say that. Clouda is very fortunate.
I think the collision might have given it away. They're peeking through the smoke. He gets
God.
the audio cue as well, but the flash is making it so hard. The shot to the back of the head, but Clouda has missed his second opportunity. Amin, though, will allow him to get one more chance at it. Zeron trying to catch him in the air as he's going through the doors, but that's not how spraying is done. The recoil eventually overwhelming Clouda. Spawn and SK now getting ready for a 2-on-3. At least the HP's been whittled down a little bit to set them up for a nice little bit of success on the clutch. The bomb should be going down very soon, but the retake, we've seen how deadly Iran are on them.
This is such an incredibly messy round so far. And this is the kind of round where India has found success before. Spawn, Molotov or not, will be able to move forward very soon if he wants to try and take a slightly more defensible position. Zeron aggresses. Spawn's far off. Remember, they do have a smoke and 2 incendiaries, so if Spawn gets mollied out, he's got nothing he can do here. Now Molotov does literally nothing with the position of India's player, and the fact that it is on the bomb as well will not be particularly helpful. SK's got another frag. The bomb has been tapped. Zeron just looking for a few kills, and he will, at the very least, collect those.
You know what? For a second, it kind of looked like the punished kills from Clouda. After those two, well, the punishment from Clouda wouldn't actually eventually amount to much, but after that clutch comes through, you can see the impact of it.
Yeah. I mean, even just being able to get the bomb plant is probably because of the amount of chaos.
All right, there we go. We have confirmation. Iran doesn't know that they can't qualify if they've taken the time out. Yeah.
Maybe that's why they took the time out. They're just like, ugh.
We need to check Wikipedia, guys.
Someone bring out Excel. Just asking the admin for permission to alt-tab and check their Excel sheets.
I think that's what the coach is for, just to have like Google Sheets open without a connection.
This is true. It's called printed paper without a connection.
Just theorizing, like managing the, keeping track of the enemy's economy by just having like an Excel sheet open.
Wow.
I mean, theoretically, you could do that in like ESEA or something, right? Right?
I mean, in online matches, yeah, you can do that, but also that is so stupid. Like, that might be the dumbest way of managing economy I've ever heard of.
Also, you can't exactly take like all the nades used into account fully, so you're going to be off by a few $100s all the time.
So you managed to create an Excel model for economy, and even that's just wrong?
Yeah, it's just wrong. Every time they're on an eco, just type in 2400.
Iran is still in position where they can actually end up going for a late round crunch potentially, but India's got very little utility. They have not been going for the Mach 10s and the like, and as a result of that, we'll be relying on firepower. That's been a consistent theme though. Nike's, I won't lie, he has been quite aggressive whenever there's ecos on the other side. Otherwise, he's one of the last players left alive very often. Less so in the T side, but yeah. I mean, nice shot. The bomb's been dropped. He is very low, and there's a player coming in from behind. Nike's will shut him down. Well,
I mean, you can't really knock you can't really knock the Eco Cobra if he's actually managing to poison 4.
Can't you? I feel like that's sort of the entire point. One is gone, the AK recovered. MN will have some spoils of war.
I mean, first he didn't have a consonant in the MN, and now he just like got
he's been losing he's been losing more and more the more games they lose actually. Because like Iran lost the first 2 games, he's like, okay, I've got to lose the mega. Right, and then
he's not feeling much of a mega, right?
Yeah. They then, you know, so actually at the first loss he lost the mega. Second loss, he's like, well, I can't be man either. I'll just make it like min. And now because they won a game, I'm giving him something more. I'm calling him with 2 consonants. MN. He's getting the full double syllable treatment.
But if he loses this game, then
I'm just not gonna have to say his name ever again.
Then he gets rid of the name altogether, and he just has a picture of Mega Man as his Steam
I mean, I just
avatar.
don't have to say his name anymore because he's out of the tournament.
Fair enough.
He literally just
loses his name. Damn.
It's your name, Zeron. However, it's your aim. Not quite able to get it on to the right target.
No, obviously, even we're not too sure about the convoluted details of who's going to be able to qualify if Iran actually end up winning this.
Who is?
Yeah, so this is still, like, at least from our perspective, they're quite important for Iran to actually get it done, right? And they're not doing a great job at holding this down. Spawn, great response as the spray starts to come his way. 2-on-4 potential on the retake, but they're just going to have to tuck their tails and back off. There is no way this is happening.
Yeah, Rashness and MN are just going to back off and save. They've got full belts as well on top of it all, and not the best loss bonus, so nice to see that. As far as India is concerned, they've been getting some great entries, so they have very much exploited missed shots from Iran. Zeron has not been able to get the same level of efficacy that he did on the T side on CT, which is kind of surprising because of the nature of the rounds. Yeah, he's on 24 kills. Need I remind you that he was on 20 in as many rounds. Now, 4 rounds later, he's had 4 more, so he's just maintained that 1 KPR pretty consistently. I'm actually just wrong. Fired Up in the meanwhile has been less fortunate. Now, just the 1 kill in the past 4 rounds. But even so, the rest of his team managing to frag through is still something to take note of. Molotov down, Zeron's lost most of his life, almost going down completely to it, just because of a slight hint of delay. I think that might have been a bit too much. Now we'll have to play so passively. No one on the A-bomb side though, so wouldn't be surprised if he just wanted to hold on to that, but they are very committed to the idea of B, and so is India.
Flash is going through. They're going to want to power through the Molotovs as well. And surprisingly enough, Clouda takes a while to go down eventually, but the fight is there from the T's. Rashness moving in, isn't able to get more than one, eventually gets put in the grave. Dantic now coming in through with the MP9. Perhaps incentivize to push through the smoke with the audio cue of the bomb. Swings out, pre-fires with the MP9, and he even gets the second chance to do it. A little sloppy on the spray, but he'll get it done regardless. 14-11, Iran still trying to fight it out.
Get what you can.
The CT side, but surprisingly enough, there's not really a huge kill disparity in between the players as we saw before, right? And Amin has really stepped it up from the last time they played. I think there was a game where he was sitting on like 4 or 6 kills.
Yeah,
something
the Mirage
along those
game,
lines.
he might have been single digits to the very end.
Yeah, but now he's the second best fragger, and the only one above him is the AWP player. So definitely a resurgence, a recovery.
No, it's good to see the trio. Definitely was a bit concerned when we didn't see Amin come alive in the previous one.
It was nice to see that Rashness was still an ace that they had up their sleeve when nothing else was working out, but
yeah,
obviously it comes back to the trio when they actually go back to winning ways. Hold that thought. SK. Really overwhelmed here. Iran very comfortable with going for that aggression, and they realize that this is how they're going to win Anubis. They're letting Zeron mobilize the AWP, they're letting these rifles go up for exploration as well, and that works really well because India, they're at the threat of the AWP, and then they get assaulted by their rifles. So there's a little bit of unpredictability thrown into the mix by Iran.
Iran doesn't have any more utility though, so they will be very much reliant on just hitting their shots. India has a chance to try and execute onto a bomb site should they want to collect, but the way they are positioned doesn't seem like that is going to be the case. Deep smoke in middle will at the very least threaten and make sure Zeron has to be continually aware of a push that could come in through towards the A-bomb site. Similarly for Amin, rather for Rashness, which means that both MN and Amin are very isolated as anchors. They've pushed forward, so at the very least should just be 1v1s that they have to contend with, but Clouda will be spotted out on that 1v1, has the advantage. Something you cannot say about Iran as far as the numbers are concerned any longer.
I mean, he's been a force to be reckoned with before as well. He's gotten a crazy clutch before off of that angle, but this time he is quickly nipped in the bud. In case his spawn Having to defend against a 2 versus 2. AWP creeping up. Zerone, he's always so good at doing that slow clearance with the scoped weapon, but great shot from Nick Ace. Nearly gets caught out by Zerone, who tries to recover with a putt shot with a no-scope, but it simply doesn't happen. 2-round deficit now for India against Iran, and also just a 2-round margin to potentially make it to that W now. Obviously, the implications of the match are a little iffy. Still, a W is a W for either team.
Full eco for Iran. Just a flashbang, nothing else. The one round where no one expects it. And they will get pretty much nothing. Kill, draw. That's nice. Cloud has been forced to drop down into water. Okay. But it doesn't really impact it.
Now, of course, the money could be headed down into no man's land, potentially, for the CT side. They've got to be very careful with this. Zerone needs to make this AWP work, because this could be one of the final chances, greeted by a bullet to the forehead. And Iran, their prime gunner, is going to have to back off, scurry away.
That's happened a few times. Zerone has been punished on the CT side when he's trying to get aggressive, but not actually taken down. So still has the threat of the AWP in the late round, which can be almost as important as the actual AWP itself. Well, now that threat has been eliminated. Spawn is going in for more. I mean, Defiant be found rather and taken down. Rashness, the only one to get a frag so far on the CT side, and that is not looking to change anytime soon. Rashness will get the double and go down. But sets up Dantic for success. This is going to be 2 consecutive 1v1s, and the AWP on the other side will win it immediately. Fired up, can settle it down to 14-14.
India is finally on the cusp of potentially winning out one game in this tournament. And what a way it would be to at least save face, right? At least have something to go about. Interestingly enough, by the way, Nikkei's had like 4 kills, like maybe 15 rounds into the game or something, and he's made a bit of a recovery. Now, I know that there was a certain flute that was being played, and there was potentially a Cobra involved, but...
Like, it's still credit out to him where it's due, right? He's still getting some extra frags. He's getting a lot more impact on the T side, putting the numbers together.
And if they win the game, right, then cleaning up those ecos in a close scoreline actually is impactful.
Yes, and regardless of whether it's... a lot of it is empty calories or not. It's not all empty calories. There are some very impactful entries. There are some very impactful late round kills as well. So there is that to consider. Plus 15 should be easy enough for them, with the opposition being limited at best.
Potentially a game that could go to overtime, actually. Iran. I mean, even in the next round, right? They're not going to have all that much money. So it is going to be an uphill battle. Cloud up. Getting ready to move in. There it is. That's the end.
Getting himself the double as well. I mean, will trade. MN gets one of his own, and this is looking dangerous. Iran is suddenly turning things around. Back to a 3v3. 2 rifles recovered as well. Still no Kevlar behind them. Rashness is the only one who's actually got it and will have the rifle exchanging hands there.
And this is actually suddenly a doable scenario for them. Spawn, of course, is holding down the line to make sure that they're not going to cross that imaginary red barrier. Smoke impedes the possibility of them trying to go for an early retake as well. And now that India are in decent positions, I think the CTs kind of realize that, okay, maybe we want to back off. No. At least the money's there for a rebuy in the next round, but the AWP is going to be a big question mark. I'm not really sure on the numbers just yet. Molotov to go out. Spawn coaxed out of his position, but he gets the victim before he falls. 5-7 in the men's hands, but what can you really do with that little HP? SK gets it done and finally puts the 15th on the board for India. This is finally a position where India have some leverage.
Yeah, this is not something we expected right now. Obviously, Iran, with how strong they look versus Vietnam, actually taking them down, the #1 team in the group at the end of it all. Rather, #2 actually, but tied 3-1 with Uzbekistan, so it's all right. And it's a timeout used by India as well.
Yeah,
they just want to make sure that they can finish this one out right now. Let bygones be bygones, let everything else be to the side. Let's get 1 W on the board.
And obviously it does boost the morale in the camp heading home, right? Knowing that you've at least gotten that final win. I mean, obviously they're not an entire team, but even if you've got pairs of players, or if you've got a 3 and 2 setup in terms of
it's
like
just nice to be able to say you won a game for your country.
Yeah,
to be honest.
that.
More than anything else, like it is national pride on the line. It is being able to go back and say, yeah, I gave my country a win.
Yeah, you want that final goodbye to be positive as well.
Yeah. And the same is true for Iran.
Didn't think we would be saying that, to be honest, because Iran just looks so damn strong, but here they are, being punished by India time and time again.
And now they've gone and reverted back to the double op. Dantic wielding that secondary.
Oh, Dantic, he's got to hit his shot. The reaction time isn't quite there to hit him on the first, but not even on the cross back. India, they're spreading the time kind of thin, to be honest, because they've basically gotten no information before they head into the bomb site. And this B site is looking oh so packed. 3 players out there ready. Zeron trained on the angle with the AWP as well. Utility getting ready as well. Iran is starting to deploy their final pieces of utility. Amin being the only one that has that defensive smoke available.
Full execute over towards his B-bomb site with just 20 seconds left. India, though, they've been caught out. Raktas gets the 1 and then makes it 2. Zeron's going to keep it going. It's only fired up at SK and now just fired up a 1-5. It is going to be overtime guaranteed.
Yeah, fired up, trying to get some hot shots in before he eventually falls, but it is going to be overtime, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't a game that we expected to be in overtime, but here we are, 15-15. These teams have been giving each other such a tough fight, especially heading into the second half. I think there was definitely some more optimism in the camp of Iran, knowing that they've got all the pieces that they need to win out a CT side. We were talking about the parallels as well, T-Time. The fact that there is a bit of a transfer when you have very proactive players being able to dominate the CT side. That's the kind of skill that is transferable. That is the kind of skill that really benefits when you're playing a map like Anubis. But it is going to that final cider. Overtime's going to be tricky to get past, though, because India need to realize, or rather, that their opponents are once again going to play the T side, which is, in fact, the advantageous side. Connector now. Nikas, nearly tagged up by the nade. And Rajnas, he's used the smoke so many times that by this time, this is about as telegraphed as possible. India probably have a PowerPoint presentation ready on this particular smoke. Rashness wanting to peek out, but he does need to be careful because there might be an AWP watching from all the way back. As they start to move into connectors, Zerone will be the one to take charge. He's going to be the one responsible for it, but they realize that there's a player close up as well. They swing right past him, go for the kill. Nikus is able to get an opening frag, and Zerone eventually goes down after collecting one of his own. Amin falling victim to yet another sniper rifle. And with Dante being in a 1 versus 3, knowing that this is an overtime, knowing that he's got some money to fall back onto, he still wants to negotiate here. But let's see what kind of bargain he can get. He's sticking around, double headshot onto SK. Peeks out, caught in the back. This is so messy that he actually had a chance. And I think he still does with the pistol. What am I even watching? He switched over to the AK, expecting the player in connector, and I cannot believe Dante has gotten so much space. But surely he's not going to fall. No! With 5 seconds, Dante in a 1v3, he's gotten it done. And I don't think India was expecting that. So many whiff shots have allowed this to happen. What a terrible scenario to be in. The fact that they missed so many shots to even allow him to turn around, switch his weapon, bring out the pistol, get a headshot, and then even have time to casually check out connector and use utility to clear out the final player? No. That is too much leeway being given up. I think things might be starting to go downhill for Team India once again. Moving into middle now, India wanted to take charge. They've been relatively passive, kind of playing the style of play where they take their sweet time heading into it. Dante falls. Space being opened up for Team India. Now, Amin is going to be able to respond in kind, so that advantage isn't going to last very long. But SK, that AWP is being put to good use, and the second op from Fired Up, that is a nice opener. Megaman and Zerone now in a 2 versus 4. It's not like they're strangers to clutches whatsoever, but of course India, their ears have quickly perked up at the thought of another clutch. Full focus underway. Opener for Zerone, but I think he realizes that there's not really much of a point to trying to go for this. Even if he sticks around for the exits, I don't think there's really much of a point. I think the confidence they've built up off of Dante's clutch, they're still trying to bank on it, but
yeah,
that is it's not going to be.
It's a bit much to ask for, to say the least. India's not going to let go of that many clutches in a row. That's just not going to happen. And obviously now for Iran, it's all a question of whether you can stop it from even needing to get to that clutch point. Because these past 2 rounds in overtime, India's looked like they're the better team, right? They look like they've been in control. They're getting the entries. They're getting the side control as well. What do you really do on Iran's side?
For Iran, the question now that they've made it to overtime, right? Or rather the win condition is just to delay it and have enough rounds as a buffer to take advantage when they get on that terrorist side.
You'd think so, but also at the same time, the CT side has seen Zerone cool off just a little bit in how dynamic he can be, in how aggressive he can be. The raw numbers are there, but it doesn't seem like he's having quite the same impact. Clouda trying to get a quick entry out, just poking and prodding, but he's been answered back to Amin. Does not want any poking. He's got some very strict personal boundaries, and you've got to respect them. Nick-Ace, that's why you can see him from far away through the smoke. That's where he finds the frag. Zerone, another miss coming through. There's been a few too many of these at this point, and Zeron needs to start hitting those shots. SK's found rashness in the meanwhile. Zeron is just fading away. He's worried about a double-sided push to come through. MN's given a bit of space. So Nikes will fall. Zeron trying to wrap around the corner. Molotov's going forward. Will not actually connect. SK has been given so much more space as a result of it. Zeron cannot win this round. A clutch that is impossible, but one that he has to go for. It's the last round of overtime in this half of overtime, rather. And India will take the lead. One that realistically should have been an 18-15.
Yeah, and for the side of Team Iran, right, it's been a little unfortunate that Zeron has now started to miss shots that he would hit any day of the week, right? Yes, he's going 29 and 23, but this is where it's do or die, right? And I think it might already be die, but if you're focusing, if you're tunnel visioning on just this particular game, then Zeron cannot slack this late into the tournament.
Like, if it's gotten to overtime, these guys are focused. Put it that way. Zeron, though, might be dwindling, like you mentioned. Worst possible time to be having this happen to him as well. This is such a narrow angle from Fired Up. They are heavily focused in onto... Why? How is everyone feeling this Molotov? That's my only question. It's not a hard molly.
I have an answer for that. Day starts at 10 a.m. It's 10 p.m. right now.
Good answer.